Right. Okay, so we're moving towards our first test. And I'm going to start dragging my feet a little bit because there's a lot in this particular chapter and I don't want us to miss anything. So if it slides past the date that I have for it right now, forgive me. Okay, so February 8th is our test coming up for chapters 1, 2, and 3. So one of my students, oh gosh, a long time ago said, everybody says that you can make difficult things easy to understand, but don't go to sleep on your tests, or don't underestimate my tests. And I thought, I want that card for my tombstone. Yeah, I promised to tell you, or the formats that I'll use. The test will be in-house. All right. The test will be 30 questions, multiple guess from each chapter. There will be 6 or 7 essay questions. They'll be worth 10 points each, and you can choose like 4 of them. So everybody can't study everything. That's ridiculous. So what it means is that the essay questions, generally, I want them to be succinct. So what I mean by that is, if I talk about the channel members, remember manufacturers, intermediaries, end users, and I might say, why is the end user there? Because the end user performs channel functions. It's all you have to write. All right. That's, brevity is the soul of wit, as Shakespeare said. So you don't have to write War and Peace. Usually I will also have 3 or 4 bonus questions worth 2 points apiece. So the test is 106 points on a 100-point scale. So, and you'll find that there'll be plenty of chances to make up in the middle there. Okay. All right. We're also coming towards the very first position paper. And I talked about position papers before, but we'll speak a little bit about it again, is that the position papers will be done in your groups. Thursday, I will introduce you to your groups, because we'll be doing what's called the efficiency template. And you're going to work together on the efficiency template, and that's going to be part of your essay, okay? Your essay questions. So I urge you to come in Thursday with a calculator. Well, you can have your phones, but you will be required to have a calculator for the test, all right? It's very important you show up Thursday, all right? So I'm saying that right now. Introduce you to your groups, you'll work the problems together, you get an understanding of what exactly needs to be done, and so from there we'll go on. So how do you make points while doing your position paper? As I said before, the position paper starts from a very strongly worded statement that I'm going to make, and your group decides whether you agree with it or disagree with it. One way or another, no prevarication. E, 3 sources get you an A. You find 3 sources either online or in library.appstate.edu, and you source them in your bibliography, gets you an A. And you use the sources in your research. All right, that's how important I think that doing research is that I'm actually able or willing to go ahead and, in essence, fund that by giving you the A's, because I want you to do research. It's important, all right? I would like it to be done in APA style. You're all groaning, I know. Does anybody know how to do this in Microsoft Word? I'm going to show you a really cool trick, all right? I learned this in Masters, and I'm going to show you something right now on how to do. Oh, I hate the way they do this. How to do references inside of a document in Word. Okay, so you see up here where it says references. Click on references. go to manage sources. And if you notice, I've got a couple of sources already in there I've already used, okay? So you can actually store your references in a blank document inside of Word, and every time you use it, you can use them for any citations required. So I'm just going to throw a couple over here to the current list, and I'm going to create a new one, and let's say it's a journal article. So let's go ahead and put in the authors. All right. Now, when you put in the authors, you can actually flip them up or down, rotate them, whatever way you wish. Title, journal name. Make sure you don't hit your caps locks. Year, usually the year and the pages are usually absolutely important. By the way, if you ever do a quotation in a document, it's important that you not only use in the citation where it came from, but the exact page that it came from inside that, okay, where it was located. So I'm just going to show all biographic fields. You can put month, day in. Usually the way most of them are done now is you're looking for volume and issue. They no longer do things like month and day. So you see all this stuff right here? All right. I go bibliography. I do insert bibliography, and it automatically goes in an APA style. That's all you got to do. Okay. Now, let me show you something else. Oh, excuse me. It says Chicago style. I wanted APA. All right. We'll just click it. Guess what? Changes the APA. That's how easy it is. Okay. So I want you to please use this as a way of doing your research. Okay. Also, if you notice, you do have the ability of inserting a citation, and it's automatic. So I would urge you to get used to this. If any of you aspire to be master's students, this is going to be your best friend. Okay. This is the main reason why I do this work instead of doing it in Google. All right. Google just can't do this as well. All right. Enough of the day. So let us get on with our work. Okay. So we have started out by identifying the target segments. The next step in our chain in finding out how well we're doing is that we have to look at the existing channels and audit them. All right. We evaluate each available channel member's capability to be able to deliver the service outputs in an efficient manner. How well do the members in our group perform? And it is a complex formula or understanding to be able to determine how well a group is doing their job. Not only how well the group is doing their job, but are they receiving just compensation? I will be talking about distributive and procedural justice and the equity principle and many other things along the way. But what I'm basically stating is, are we giving an honest day's wage for an honest day's work? The equity principle is extremely important and valuable one. We'll talk about that later. Okay, it's in a couple of days away. But this is the gist of what auditing is supposed to be for. We want to know if each channel member in the existing system, what they're doing, at what cost, and whether they're receiving compensation relative to what their contribution is. And the only way that we can do that is we're going to go to that very busy slide that we had in the first chapter and look at the channel functions. It is more than just the physical equipment that moves in the channels. There are 9 things that happen, and we will talk about those. Channel functions are the activities that produce the service outputs that are demanded by end users. When we are breaking bulk, we are doing both physical possession and ownership at the same time, along with financing and all the rest. And so to be able to understand the value, we have to understand those 9 functions. Now, before I go on, let's talk about what are the benefits of auditing. It's important also to understand that these should be thinking of these as steps, all right? So the benefits of auditing. First, you diagnose and you remedy the shortcomings in either the provisioning or the price of the service outputs to targeted segments. In other words, you right size and in perfect time the deliverables that you hope to bring to the consumers. The next is you identify gaps in which you're not supplying services to individuals or to your end users, or you're providing too much, which happens. Sometimes the consumers don't want it all. They just want a little bit. And the last thing is that you help the members to allocate the profits equitably. There's that equitable word again. Why it's extremely important. If you're looking for a great career, folks, industrial and organizational psychology is a really good one. If you're into the real thinking aspects of it, what makes, a just and equitable system within any organizations, there's places for you in that. Equity is one of the most valuable principles that is out there, and I would urge you to think about it more. Okay. Diagnose, by the way, comes from the Latin word, which means to take apart. And when you're diagnosing something, basically what you're doing is you're removing it into its smallest bits. I teach this in my marketing strategy class, that the first thing that you need to do when you're studying a problem at all is to take the little bits out, one piece at a time, line up the facts, take away the rest, and just look at the facts. And this is what auditing is. And so, with that as a backdrop, let's talk about the 9 channel functions. And here is that busy slide. All right. I'm not going to linger on it because we're going to talk about these one at a time. But then I want this next slide. It is important for you to absorb just that one statement at the top, is that each function carries a cost. Can Staple, there's no such thing as a free lunch, okay? And so that every one of the functions requires in one way or another a cost associated with it. And if you understand that nothing is free, then you'll understand that everything is trade-off. And so just remember that each function carries a cost. But then again, if it doesn't have a cost, then it doesn't create value in a way, because value in essence is what we get or what we give up. So here we go. We're going to talk about these one at a time. So the first is physical possession. Okay. Physical possession also includes the transportation of the products, warehouses, and even product returns as well. It is the management of the goods from the beginning process to its ultimate consumption by the end user. It is the physical goods and all of the activities that are wrapped up in it. Ownership, it's important to understand that ownership is separate from physical possession. In that ownership means, because you take the title, that you have tied up your capital. In other words, the physical possession of the good, many times I will receive a good, but I have not taken ownership of it. When I take ownership of it, I have in essence used capital in order to secure the title of those particular goods. So we talked about it the last time where they were separated. And of course, that's a consignment store. So if you go down King Street, you can go down to, oh gosh, right across, going blank. Anyway, they have a consignment store there that you find antiques in. And what actually happens is that consumers come in, they bring their antiques, they rent that particular space. Well, they actually don't even rent it at all. When the goods are sold, the owner of the store itself takes some money out of that they use as a value for allowing them to have their goods there. So physical possession and ownership are separate. But they usually move together, I should say. All right. Now, before I go on, it's important also, everybody steals chalk from this room. Okay. It's important to understand that physical possession plus ownership equals a concept we call inventory holding cost. Now, physical possession plus ownership equals inventory holding cost. Now, you may say to yourself, why are you calling inventory a cost? Because in the truth of it all, you have to have inventory in order to sell. But the worst thing about it is that inventory is a drag on every corporation. Inventory reduces capital, reduces your flexibility to respond to changes. It is even worse, especially when those goods are not particularly saleable. Inventory has dragged many a company down into bankruptcy. Toys R Us, classic example. They bet big on the last bit of the Star Wars sequel, and the $300 million they invested was a disaster. Okay. So, has anyone heard of the concept of what turnover is? Okay. For those, just to explain and get where we are, this is what turnover means. Okay. I have $1,000 in stock at the start of January. Okay. I'm just going to say I sell $1,000 of stock by the end of December. My turnover rate is 1. What that means is that I sell everything on my shelves value in an entire year. All right. It doesn't mean that I sell all of those pieces of equipment, but in effect, if I have a $10 million inventory and I sell $10 million worth of goods at cost, then in essence, I have a turnover of 1. What is the danger if the turnover rate is less than 1? Think about it. What's the danger?
You have to house.
Pardon?
Excess goods you have to house.
Yes. Excess goods, you have goods that have not been sold. You have failed to be able to sell your entire inventory in a year, and you have, in essence, what is known as dead stock. Right. Perfect. Okay. Turnover becomes king in the game of supply chain. Everything runs on turnover. You have wasted capital. You've been unable to sell goods, and now you have goods that you may ultimately have to liquidate. That is the difficulty in having turnover. So now think about just in time. Now remember when I talked about just in time in the first class. So when I'm building this automobile, and just as I am needing that tire, I reach for the tire in inventory, that good gets shipped into a truck and they slap that wheel in my hand and it never goes into inventory. Now, think about if my turnover rate is instead of 1, what if it's 30? That is a fantastic way of being able to generate efficiencies in my supply chain. All right. It is what I'm working for. And yet we have to have inventory. And why do we have to have inventory? Okay. Why? That's the question. Why do we have to have inventory? Because demand surges and outstrip production. So way back in 2004, I was still in IT, 2004, 2005. There was the discussion Nintendo was coming out with this incredible new interface based on kinetic energy. Nintendo was 6 months away from bankruptcy. In 2006, introduced the Nintendo Wii and fundamentally changed the way gaming has been done since then. For almost 4 years, every year from 2006 to 2010, the Wii, the production was sold out from October to December. No matter how many of they built, they could not build them fast enough. And though it would sure help to have them on the shelves, unfortunately, they just weren't able to because quite simply demand outstripped supply. Okay. The other is the economies of scale. Quite simply, to start those big factories up, efficiency demands that you run 24 hours a day, if you can. Economies of scale. It is much less expensive per unit to build 10,000 than it is to build 30. Now, we are reaching into a brave new world where 3D printing has actually started to turn the tables on this a little bit, but we're not quite there yet. Okay. Supply and demand are uncertain. Bless you. Supply and demand are uncertain. And certainly, of course, demand is one of those things that is way uncertain because you may have unique environments or situations such as what we've had with COVID that changes the whole panel, whole ground. Okay. And so why or what do we do with these particular issues? Well, we do what's called having a safety stock. Okay, let's fill this board up. I'm gonna go get some more chalk after this class. Safety stock. Okay. And a safety stock is an excess inventory kept. Safety stock. You keep an excess inventory in case of runs. All right. You keep them ahead of like the next order cycle so that you're always kind of in a reasonable environment. Doesn't happen all the time, but as much as we need product in order to buy, the thing that we don't need is we don't need the wrong product. Okay, so these are the things that keep researchers and forecasters up. Okay, so physical possession, ownership, promotion. Promotion are all of the activities that seek to increase the awareness of a product that is being sold. Mainly, you talk about targeting new buyers, or you're trying to get existing buyers to reconsider and buy your product. We know what promotion is. Negotiation, once again, is one of those unique things. It's present in the channel overall. It is present whenever you are negotiating any sale. Everything is open for negotiation. And just realize that everything is open. My wife does this so well. So much better than I do. Everything is always open for negotiation. Also remember, it is the amount of personal time it takes to be able to negotiate as well. That's also considered a cost. And what my wife does brilliantly is that no matter how long it takes to get the deal done, she's willing to invest. And there's an old saying, the last one with the chalk wins. That's my wife. Okay. Financing. Okay. Can anybody tell me what that means? Yes.
Is it a 2% discount? 30 days. I forgot what the 10 means.
You got it. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. Okay. 2% discount if you pay within 10 days. N means N30 means net 30. Right on it. Yes. 2% discount on 10 days, net of a bill for 30 days. So 210 net 30 is how you read it. And what it basically means is if you pay a bill within 10 days, you can take a 2% discount. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but if you have $800 million, let's say, in bills, then if you take 210, you $16 million, that'll buy lunch. Okay. So it just depends on whether you want to use it or not. Financing, folks, it is so valuable and so important. And I want you to really consider what businesses do when they give you terms. Okay. When a business gives you terms like that, they are saying that they're willing to forego the working capital for 30 days and allow you to use it. And they trust you that you're going to pay in 30 days. That is an enormous investment in trust, more than you might realize, except if you're in business right now. Walmart, by the way, is net 45. That's Walmart. Okay, so they keep the money for another 15 days, float some bonds, get a couple of $1 million through, and make a few million just on being able to float their loans, or float their financing. But that's Walmart, and they can do it. They have the big shoulders to be able to do those things. Yeah, realize this is that the sellers are willing to finance the buyer's purchase for a period of time, and afterwards they expect that to be delivered. Okay. It can be done by manufacturers. It can be done by outside specialists. It can be done anywhere up and down the supply chain, but it's just important for you to understand that. Now, risk, any of you who ever go into risk management, that's another great field. It's really awesome. Risk is uncertainty, regardless of where it is in the channel environment. Realize risk also happens to be in long-term contracts as well. If you have long-term contracts, you're basically saying that you are willing to bet the market uncertainties and you prefer to have secured assets at the right time. That is another amazing. Now, how much risk you're willing to accept is also a certain question in your own mind as well. A lot of corporations bank on risk and others don't. So I'll give you 2 examples. Delta Airlines. I was just looking this up. Delta flies 19 different airframes. So what that means is Delta has 19 different models of planes that they fly. They've had many more than that, but they've reduced it. They have no 777s, they have no 747s or 787s. They fly international with the 350s and the 767s, which I looked at and I was really amazed at that. I mean, but that's the way they do it. They're the largest commercial fleet in the world. Now, I also want to think about risk. Their risk is up around having 17 different airframes. Do you realize how much money it costs in servicing 17 different airframes? That's absurd, but they do, all right? But that means that they're willing to invest in their mechanics and the service because the FAA doesn't let anybody, I shouldn't be saying that. But anyway, they're not supposed to, all right? They're supposed to be flyable. So that's their place where they do not believe in risk. There are other ways of looking at risk. Southwest Airlines. Anybody want to guess how many airframes Southwest flies? 1. Exactly. They fly the 737. Of course, Boeing's problems right now are pretty creepy. The Maxes, instead of building an entire new jet, they basically kind of put the new engines on airframes that they weren't built for. That's not Southwest's problem. Now, I'll give you another place that they do risk. Delta Airlines bought their own oil refinery. Now, think about that. Oil is so important to them. Jet fuel is so valuable that they bought a facility in Pennsylvania that does nothing but produce their fuel. Southwest, however, Southwest does what's called hedging. So what does Southwest do? Southwest is one of those corporations that's very aggressive, that goes out actively on the market and bets or hedges whether or not it's going to have enough jet fuel to fly their planes. And it's amazing how brilliant or how well they've done. Their ability to hedge is textbook stuff that you do cases on in business school. They have been able to hedge on oil successfully. In other words, playing the price of oil to their advantage. Just amazing stuff. All right. United Airlines got out of that. Delta got out of that. American got out of that. And Southwest has stayed in the game, and now here it is, and back to uncertainty, and Southwest is sitting in the catbird seat. They're the ones who have been able to do it right. It's all about how much risk you're willing to manage. It could be a shambles if they bet wrong, but somehow they have the magic to get it right. Okay. Ordering and payment, all of the costs that occurred when actual payment and purchase of the product. This also is one of those things where the automatic replenishment systems have worked out to enormous advantages. So this was started with Walmart in 1994 with the continuous replenishment program called, or CRP, where basically what happened is Walmart pledges a certain amount of goods that they are willing to buy, but they will only order allotments in certain fixed sizes. Once again, remember, inventory is a danger, and Walmart doesn't walk into that trap. And so ordering and payment also includes things like deferred ones and automatic replenishment as well. So the last one, information sharing, and yes, once again, this is a test thing. Information sharing to me in many ways is the most valuable of the service outputs and the channel functions. The channel has fewer costs when information sharing is done at its most efficient best. When information sharing works, it reduces cost across the board. That goes into predicting future trends, such as Southwest. Being able to hedge bets using analytics and artificial intelligence. Being able to, instead of invest in inventory with the hope that tomorrow is going to be better, you have smarter information. They call this transforming inventory into information, all right? So I don't hedge too hard. That's what information sharing can do. And so all information content and all of its flows, and no, I'm not going to prevaricate. You know, I don't do that in my position papers. Yes, it's the most important. It's the most important in service outputs. It's the most important in marketing functions or marketing channel functions. Okay. All right. So I've got one more statement. That's kind of a catch-all thing that needs to be remembered. Okay. And this is the statement. The costs associated with performing channel functions makes it important not to perform, and here comes a kicker, unnecessarily well. What does that mean? The costs associated with performing channel functions makes it important not to perform unnecessarily well. Why? Because efficiency is the harbinger of success. You want the exact service levels at the lowest possible cost. If you're performing beyond what the consumer values, you're wasting money. And although consumers might value that, if they don't value that, then you're bleeding capital. Because once again, remember that the cost of place are the most expensive of all of the 4 Ps. They're the most difficult to change. And for those reasons, you must invest the time and the effort to make sure that you're not performing unnecessarily well. Exact price, exact costs for the exact value that you're delivering. Okay. All right, that's it. Let's go home. All right. We will see you on Thursday. You bring your calculators anyway, you bring your phones. But we're going to go over the efficiency template and we're going to work through the calculations. See y'all later.
For your